Our Adopt a Neighborhood project takes us to the Fineview neighborhood of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Just 8 minutes and 1.8 miles away from the multi-million-dollar stadium district of Pittsburgh lies Fineview, a neighborhood situated directly above the city's North Shore. Once a booming neighborhood of Pittsburgh, Fineview has suffered from the collapse of economies and industries leaving, as well as tax-paying citizens therefore abandoning the area. The result is crumbling and decrepit infrastructure and old parcels of land with no use.
Originally part of Allegheny City, Fineview was first settled in the 1870s and incorporated into the city of Pittsburgh in the early 1900s. The first settlers of Fineview originally named it Nunnery Hill, due to the nuns of the Order of St. Clair purchasing 60 acres and establishing the first structures in the area. The nuns built a convent and young women's academy, and people began to settle the area further, establishing other businesses. Before large-scale industrialization, Fineview was considered a rural-urban fringe area. Residents in Fineview made a livelihood for themselves in many creative ways, constructing coal mines on their property, stone quarrying operations, and other extractive land uses. As industrialization grew, Fineview did as well, and it boomed with the economy in the late 19th century and early 20th century. With that boom came many new housing opportunities for immigrants to the Pittsburgh area. Those immigrants originally adopted many of the architectural features that they knew from their homes, which meant that the area was settled and built in connected housing and smaller row houses, as was customary in many Eastern European and other European cities of the time. Between 1927 and 1970, Fineview experienced many economic ups and downs. Simultaneously, Pittsburgh continued to modernize their zoning laws. In 1958, Pittsburgh released a 200-plus page ordinance book, which added more nuance between districts and created more residential, commercial, and industrial zones. In addition, the exclusive single-family zone district grew, further excluding Fineview from other land uses. This was partly influenced at a federal level. During this period, the federal government began to subsidize the building of masses of single-family dwellings across the country after World War II, which was the birth of the single-family zone in the Fineview area. As Fineview continued to develop, the city began to establish ordinances to regulate some of the land uses in the area. Pittsburgh enacted their first zoning laws in 1923, which allowed many different types of housing to exist originally. But in 1926, the United States Supreme Court ruled that exclusive single-family zoning districts were constitutional. The rationale was that the single-family dwelling and those that lived there needed to be protected from the polluting influences of industrial factories, businesses, and other unsightly uses for residential areas. In 1927, Pittsburgh voted and passed an amendment to add an exclusive single-family zoning district. Between 1927 and 1970, Fineview experienced many economic ups and downs. Simultaneously, Pittsburgh continued to modernize their zoning laws. In 1958, Pittsburgh released a 200-plus page ordinance book, which added more nuance between districts and created more residential, commercial, and industrial zones. In addition, the exclusive single-family zone district grew, further excluding Fineview from other land uses. This was partly influenced at a federal level. During this period, the federal government began to subsidize the building of masses of single-family dwellings across the country after World War II. But as these natural resources were extracted and exploited and industry jobs left the area, the Fineview neighborhood population swelled and then collapsed, leaving behind many abandoned single-family properties. From the mid-21st century onward, Fineview has faced continuous challenges involving public health, housing abandonment, and population stability. Housing vacancies have resulted in abandoned houses literally sliding down the hill as the topography changes, and Fineview has struggled to maintain nice quality but affordable housing options for its residents. Pittsburgh's outdated zoning ordinances and single-family exclusive zones have made it difficult for Fineview to attract and build affordable housing projects for its residents. In addition, NIMBYs, aka Not in My Backyard, oppose affordable housing options because they think that the addition of those opportunities will reduce the value of their property in their neighborhood.
The city of Pittsburgh has a zoning code with a purpose statement. That statement says, "It is the purpose of this code to facilitate development of good quality housing, spur reinvestment in the existing building stock, recognize and preserve the uniqueness of Pittsburgh, including its natural and human-made environment, and maintain and strengthen the city's neighborhoods."
This is the central issue at hand in our project. On one side are the NIMBYs and other neighborhood parties who wish to keep the area zoned for single-family use only. On the other side are developers and citizens who advocate for a change in zoning laws to permit attached units and low-income housing in an effort to help revitalize the neighborhood.
Our story begins here, on the Nark Street of Fineview. There's something strange happening in this neighborhood, and I don't mean poltergeists. Of course I mean the Pittsburgh Zoning Code, Judge McGinley, and NIMBYs.
Community land trusts, or CLTs, are nonprofit organizations governed by a board of CLT residents, community residents, and public representatives that provide long-lasting community assets and shared equity home ownership opportunities for families and communities. They develop rural and urban agriculture projects, commercial spaces to serve local communities, affordable rental and cooperative housing projects, and conserve land or urban green spaces. But at their core, the foundation of a CLT is the creation of homes that remain permanently affordable, providing successful home ownership opportunities for generations of lower-income families. Here's how it works. Someone purchases a house that sits on land that is owned by a CLT. The price is more affordable because the homeowner is buying the house, not the land. Homeowners then lease the land from the CLT in a long-term renewable lease. The homeowner then agrees to sell the home at a restricted price to keep it affordable forever, but they may be able to realize appreciation from improvements they made while living there. And that is exactly the kind of project that Fineview Citizens Council and the City of Bridges CLT were trying to accomplish in Fineview. Among the values of City of Bridges CLT is community-led ownership that ensures permanent affordability, empowering individuals, and ensuring responsible employment growth and stewardship, as well as permanently affordable housing spaces to strengthen community and restore neighborhoods. Their goal is to create 100 units of affordable housing in the county in the next 5 years.
City of Bridges Community Land Trust is the land developer who's trying to achieve this affordable housing project. Now, a problem with that is they want to build attached homes, and the Pittsburgh Zoning Code only allows for detached single-family homes. City of Bridges CLT and Fineview Citizens Council aim to build 8 attached single-family homes as part of the affordable housing plan. These units would have benefited families who make below $75,000 a year, or 80% of the mean income.
The area here is zoned for single-family detached homes. The attached homes in Fineview were constructed before the zoning code was established. The zoning variance that would have allowed this type of housing project to proceed was granted by the board, but Candace Kane and Ellen Mazzo, 2 NIMBYs, sought to block the affordable housing development, and Judge Mary McGinley struck it down in September of 2023.
But now, thanks to Judge Mary McGinley, the project will cost an additional $120,000 to $140,000 to build in accordance with the zoning laws that don't allow attached homes in the zone. Something else stinks, and that's Judge Mary McGinley's reasoning that the Zoning Variance Board abused its discretion and committed an error of law in allowing the variance that would have permitted the affordable housing here in Fineview.
Not only that, but McGinley said the board made findings not supported by substantial evidence in order to grant the variance. She also claimed that City of Bridges CLT did not present evidence sufficient to establish unnecessary hardship, and our two NIMBYs cited a lack of off-street parking in the proposal and not enough space between houses as reasons for their opposition. This ruling encumbers the project by raising expenses and making delays for the project. Ed Nusser, the executive director of City of Bridges, said that the plan was endorsed by the community members and would bring much needed and long overdue investment to the area, but the zoning code makes it more difficult to build such affordable housing projects. A major concern for City of Bridges, who was quoted as saying the zoning code as currently written makes it nearly impossible to restore the fabric of Pittsburgh's neighborhoods, where we are short of more than 17,000 affordable homes. So, in the face of an affordable housing crisis, in which the median home price in the city has increased 25% in the last 5 years alone, what can be done to promote affordable housing projects and make them easier and less costly to build for Pittsburgh area residents? What can we do to fix this problem?
Councilman Bobby Wilson has been working the past few months to combat these zoning ordinances. After passing successful legislation quite recently, he still has a long way to go to guarantee that the people of Fineview have access to affordable housing. Although one piece of legislation has been passed to combat the affordable housing crisis and its effects on the neighborhood of Fineview, there are still many pieces of legislation on the table, and in reality, it will take many years for the people of Fineview to experience the benefits of the zoning ordinances being passed. Over the past few months, Pittsburgh Councilman Bobby Wilson has been diligently working to amend a rule within the zoning code that has sparked controversy and hindered housing developments in certain neighborhoods such as Fineview. The past zoning code treats attached row houses, common in detached districts, as unpermitted structures, placing them in the same category as industrial and commercial properties. This treatment is problematic as industrial and commercial properties face different standards and challenges than residential ones, creating a high and difficult standard for property developers. Under the past zoning ordinances, housing developers would incur an additional $140,000 in expenses that would ultimately be reflected in the sales or rental prices of the property, contradicting the goal of affordable housing. Townhomes and row houses, which often share walls and ceilings, are particularly affected by these zoning ordinances. Limiting the construction of these structures exacerbates the affordable housing crisis by restricting the supply of housing. Recognizing this issue, Councilman Wilson is advocating for changes in the zoning ordinance to remove this categorization for attached houses, thus allowing them to be built on smaller lots. It is crucial to note that the past zoning ordinance disproportionately affected low-income residents, as housing price inflation can force them out of their homes and neighborhoods. The new zoning ordinance aims to reduce red tape surrounding these legal issues, facilitating the construction of attached housing on smaller lots. This change would increase the housing supply, potentially decreasing housing prices and making housing more affordable. Although successfully passing the new zoning ordinance, additional legislation may be introduced to address similar issues across the city, reflecting a broader effort to tackle housing affordability changes in Pittsburgh. In addition to Councilman Wilson's efforts, there is a broader recognition within the City Council of the need for comprehensive legislative measures to address housing affordability issues across Pittsburgh. This includes exploring avenues for zoning reform, incentivizing affordable housing development, and implementing measures to protect vulnerable communities from displacement. The initiative for more affordable housing-friendly zoning ordinances, spearheaded by Councilman Wilson, underscores the intricate interplay between zoning regulations, housing development, and affordability. By advocating for meaningful reform, he intends to pave the way for a more equitable and sustainable urban landscape in Pittsburgh, one that prioritizes the needs of all its residents, especially those most vulnerable to housing insecurity. Communities can derive numerous benefits from efforts to increase affordable housing options. They can experience economic growth, more diverse and inclusive communities, improved health and well-being, a strengthened social net, and even increased property values and tax revenue. When implemented thoughtfully and properly into existing neighborhoods, affordable housing projects can contribute to a neighborhood's revitalization and can attract private investment in surrounding properties. Investing in affordable housing initiatives not only addresses immediate housing needs, but also yields long-term benefits for communities. These benefits include economic growth, more diverse and inclusive communities, improved health and well-being, a strengthened social net, and even increased property values and tax revenues. By prioritizing affordable housing, communities can create more equitable, resilient, and thriving places for all residents to come home, further developing their community.
In the city of Pittsburgh, there are affordable housing opportunities available. However, in Fineview on Pittsburgh's north side, there are not many options available for those who need low income or otherwise affordable housing. To be precise, there is only one. According to the Housing Authority for the City of Pittsburgh's website, when you search for affordable housing in Fineview, there is only one complex that is available. By blocking this project, it further limits where low-income people and families can live. By blocking the construction of housing that would specifically be designed to be affordable, whether that be through a housing credit, also known as Section 8, or a lower rent, it restricts the choice of where these people can live. In the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act, Section 3 states the opportunity for an individual to obtain employment for which he is qualified and to obtain all the accommodations, advantages, facilities, and privileges of any public accommodation and of any housing accommodation and commercial property without discrimination because of race, color, familial status, religious creed, ancestry, handicap, or disability, age, sex, national origin, the use of a guide or support animal because of the blindness, deafness, or physical handicap of the user, or because the user is a handler or trainer of support or guide animal, is hereby recognized and as declared to be a civil right which shall be enforceable as set forth in this act. In a 2021 Pennsylvania case, Apartment Association of Metropolitan Pittsburgh versus City of Pittsburgh, the court found that the City of Pittsburgh has a direct interest in ensuring that voucher holders can use their vouchers within the City of Pittsburgh. Making sure that low-income residents of the City of Pittsburgh can find housing that is equitably priced, as well as meeting the implied warranty of habitability that is often not met in housing that would be affordable otherwise. The court also went on to discuss that the city's fair housing law makes it illegal to discriminate based on race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, place of birth, sex, sexual orientation, familial status, handicap or disability, or use of support animals because of the handicap or disability of the user, but it does not protect people based on the source of income they will use to pay rent. This loophole leaves many voucher holders vulnerable to discriminatory practices. Because the status of how someone is paying rent can be asked on an application, it allows landlords to deny someone on that basis alone. This raises questions as to why a landlord cares how rent is being paid so long as it is being paid. It lends logically that a landlord would refuse to accept a housing voucher, also known as Section 8, because of implicit bias that is associated with those who obtain such benefits. Similarly, as discussed in Fair Housing Council of San Fernando Valley versus Roommates.com LLC, in which the court found that the FHA definition of dwelling does not apply to a portion of a living unit, nor does the anti-discrimination part of the FHA extend to the selection of roommates. While the case discussed in class relates to roommates, and here it is a landlord-tenant relationship, it could be argued on behalf of the landlord and other tenants that they do not want those who receive housing vouchers to be housed in the same building as them. Because there is no statute or provision otherwise that protects discrimination on this basis, there is little recourse for those who are trying to find but cannot find suitable housing. However, in Apartments Association, the court ultimately found that despite the city's claim that disparate impacts of denial of a housing voucher are not enough due to federal precedent, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania disagrees with this analysis and found that refusal to accept a housing voucher without another reasonable refusal does count as discrimination. In this unanimous 2021 opinion, expanding the Pittsburgh Human Rights Act as well as the state's Sick Days Act moves to include this new form of discrimination. This is a monumental step towards lessening the hurdles that those who receive housing vouchers to find fair and affordable housing. By this new development being blocked, it not only makes it so those who would benefit from affordable housing, but others who would live in development who are not paying by way of a housing voucher. Blocking this development is a new use of smoke and mirrors to prevent low-income people, historically people of color, from coming into a certain area because of implicit bias.
Wow, what a great presentation about Fineview's affordable housing crisis. Remember to keep an eye on these issues as they progress in our city at large, as they often go without much recognition or awareness at all.